rises in the Cambodian countryside. I breathe in. I can smell fruit. I like guavas and mangoes. The long dirt road winds, and I can see all the villages connecting from one to another as the people begin to wake up. 15 years old. My best friend is my cow. He is not just any cow. He is a magical cow, blessed by Buddha himself. He listens to me and me alone. This is my home, Battambong. Here is where we are happy. Here is what I know. My family, my life. A storm is coming, they say. I can feel it. My cow can too. But none of us could have known what was to come. I closed my eyes. This lush, exotic land, these jungles, the trees, the elephants, monkeys, tigers, snakes, and bugs. I close my eyes. I cannot see. I'm 15 years old. My cousin and I are listening to a comedian on the radio. He is very funny. Outside, my uncle sits on the porch reading the newspaper. He yells at us to be quiet.
Yeah.
There was only black and red when the storm came. Where it came from, I cannot say. Only that it was an evil cloud which landed on my home that night. Crept along our borders, stalking us by night, hiding in the jungles, waiting for the right moment woke us from our beds, dragged us from our homes. They lined us in the streets. They took everything, even my cow. We were terrified. We didn't speak. I cannot breathe. We marched for 2 weeks. Cambodia is very hot in the summer. Thousands of people, young and old, marched in a never-ending line. Of course, many did not survive the journey. Worse than death itself, worse than the heat, the starvation, the soldiers, was the separation. My family. I missed them. I couldn't breathe. It was as though I was being held underwater and was not allowed breath, or cast from the richest place in heaven to the deepest region of hell. The weeks soon turned into months, the months into years. In the same back-breaking work of planting rice in the fields. We ourselves were given a small bowl of rice twice a day. That was all. Starvation is the slowest torture one can endure. There was never any change. If you were lucky, you may have caught a bug, which you must eat immediately or be killed. Only those in red and black were allowed real sustenance. Each night, we listened to lectures from our leaders. This was the re-education process. They taught us that it was the year 0, and nothing had come before. They wanted a new beginning for Cambodia. Anyone who was educated before was killed, even those who wore glasses. We were to be like the ox. We were to be silent. I almost never spoke, ever.
The year is 1969. The United States is at war with Vietnam. Prince Sihanouk, leader of Cambodia, has declared the country neutral. Vietnamese communists have been using Cambodian soil as a base for activity. Under pressure from Washington, Sihanouk was forced to change his policy, and the Vietnamese communists were no longer welcome. President Nixon authorized a covert bombing campaign in eastern Cambodia and Laos from March 18, 1969 to May 26, 1970. Only 5 high-ranking congressional officials were informed of the operation. H.R. Alderman, Nixon's chief of staff, noted that the final decision to bomb Cambodia was made Sunday afternoon in the Oval Office following breakfast. They called it Operation Menu. The bombing lasted for 1 year, 2 months, 1 week, and 3 days. Although Sihanouk was not informed by the U.S. about the operation, he remained silent about the bombing of his country. It is unclear why. Operation Menu failed to prevent North Vietnamese forces from operating within the country. Instead, it drove the Viet Cong deeper into the Cambodian jungle, where they teamed up with another rebel militant group, the Khmer Rouge. Their leader, Pol Pot, ruled Cambodia as a dictator. He opposed an agrarian socialist economy, forcing entire urban communities into the countryside to work on farming development and forced labor projects. The effects of forced labor, malnutrition, lack of medicine, and brutal executions led to the deaths of 25% of Cambodia's population. The United States, after being defeated in the Vietnam War, was quick to adopt an anti-Vietnamese alliance with China, leaving Cambodia abandoned. The U.S. acknowledged the Khmer Rouge as the country's legitimate government and allowed them to stay in power for over 10 years. In 1970, the Cambodian War begins. After 5 years of savage fighting, the Khmer Rouge will eventually succeed in overthrowing the Cambodian government, leading to the Cambodian genocide, one of the bloodiest auto-genocides in history.
The sun burns mercilessly on my back.
Sounds of endless drudgery all around.
I keep my eyes on the ground and work.
Footsteps draw closer. A march of death.
And I fear it's meant for me.
My assailant approaches until finally we are face to face.
He tells me that I am one of the lucky ones.
But I do not understand.
I am to join a small group of trustees and trek into the jungle in search of supplies.
The group departs. We are only 4.
No soldiers accompany us on our journey.
For we have been deemed trustworthy.
The thought of danger is a trifling one.
What fate could be more dangerous than ours now?
We walked for 2 hours through bogs and marshes.
Searching.
Off in the distance, we began to see what looked like a small farmhouse.
Couldn't believe our eyes.
The house was surrounded by a beautifully manicured garden.
Filled with fresh fruits and vegetables?
How could this be?
It seemed like a mirage.
A dream amidst an enduring nightmare.
We were greeted with kindness by the elderly couple that owned the home.
They told us that the house was kept as a garden facility to supply food to the leaders.
The old man and woman quickly filled our sarongs with as much food as we could carry and quickly hurried us off into the jungle, where we must eat it all before we are spotted and killed.
We ran deep into the heavy entanglement,
Searching for the perfect spot to rest our bones. Eat our fill.
I sank my teeth deep into the first succulent cucumber and felt the blinding burst of sweetness across my tongue and down into my stomach.
It was absolute bliss.
Oh, a trip to Nirvana in the middle of hell. Early morning. Another day, like the thousands before. My back is sore from bending over. I barely recognize my hands, for they are rough and callous. And I'm thinking of music. Humming a song that I love but haven't heard for years. I hear my stomach growl and I return from my reverie. I remember that I am hungry. I listen. Silence. For the first time in 4 years, there are no guards in sight. No soldiers wielding guns, no black or red. I find my brother and we run towards the compound. But we are not alone.
Hundreds of others have already beaten us there, and we're feasting in celebration. There were fresh fruits, vegetables, fresh fish, dried fish, chicken. More food than we could ever imagine. It was a feast fit for kings.
And there we were, nearly 1,000 prisoners, filling our bellies with the food intended for our captors. We ate till we were full and then went in search of our parents. It took us nearly a day to find their camp. We ran all the while, fearing for our lives lest the soldiers were to suddenly return. There are no words to describe the moment when we had been reunited. It was better than any food in my tummy, better louder than any music in my ears. We hurried through the jungles, hundreds of people running as fast as they can, running for their lives. No one knew where the soldiers had gone, or if we would be recaptured. We ran until our feet were blistered, bleeding and swollen. Exhaustion overcame and forced us to stop for a brief time. My father did not want to stop at all. He thought the soldiers would come after us at any moment. He was right. Sounds of men screaming and gunfire and explosions trailed close behind us. The Vietnamese forces were driving the Khmer Rouge out of Cambodia. We were still frightened. My family and I traveled the jungles of my country for 6 months. Sometimes we would stop in a village, hoping to find a place where we could build a new home, or find a way to farm and sell food. There was very little hope. The Khmer Rouge had ransacked all the towns, leaving only desolation and destruction in their wake. Wherever we went, their presence followed us like a shadow creeping over our days. We moved from town to town, constantly looking over our shoulder, ready to run at a moment's notice. Thailand, 1979. Early morning. I wake and creep quietly out of the house. The sun begins to rise. The air is buzzing and full of life. Along the path, I can hear the people begin to wake up. The loudspeakers from the temple in the center of town are playing music. My father joins me on the porch, and we listen to the music together.
People of Cambodia, it has taken many years to finally arrive at the point in time when we can begin bringing you from these emigrant camps to a new life and a new country with new hopes and dreams. Today is the day, and you must get on these buses if you are to participate in this movement. It is time for you to begin the repatriation process and start a new life in a new place.
Loads of buses arrived in our village that day. Tall white men with blonde hair and blue eyes stood before us. They told us that a better life awaited us in America, a place where we could be free. My father could not believe what they were saying. He thought the men were comrades of the communists, hoping to trick us and lead us back to imprisonment. He forbids us to go. I knew he was wrong, but he would not hear me. I pleaded with my mother, brothers, and sisters, but it was no use. No one would cross my father. I had already made my decision. Our lives would never be what they once were. We could stay in Thailand and risk being recaptured, or we could get on the bus. If they killed us, it would be a fate no worse than what we had already endured. For the first time in my life, I defied my father. I walked towards the bus, my heart racing, knowing that I could never come back to my home. I reached the steps, took a breath, and climbed on.